from what I know of Jeff. You know, he's either fixing his cars or playing the guitar. There's no in-between for him.
Session work, and Jeff was in bands, and then Jeff was in the Yardbirds, and then I was in the Yardbirds with Jeff.
In the towering halls of rock history, few guitarists inspired as much awe and as much fear as Jeff Beck. Known as one of the most innovative virtuosos to ever pick up a six-string, Beck didn't just play the guitar. He reimagined what the instrument could be. His groundbreaking work with distortion, feedback, and genre-bending experimentation gave us albums like Blow by Blow and Wired, records that continue to shape generations of musicians. But behind those dazzling performances was a man both brilliant and notoriously difficult. Jeff Beck was a perfectionist of the highest order, demanding absolute precision not only from himself, but from everyone around him. His volcanic temper and brutally honest criticism often left his peers shaken. Beck had zero tolerance for mediocrity, and his razor-sharp words could cut down a fellow musician's confidence in an instant. To Jeff, music wasn't a hobby or a show, it was sacred artistry. And if anyone treated it as anything less, they earned his contempt. Over the years, this uncompromising attitude created rifts with some of the biggest names in rock. Today, we're diving into the shocking truth about 5 legendary musicians who, by all accounts, could not stand Jeff Beck. These weren't minor disagreements. These were bitter feuds that lasted decades, shaping the rivalries of the rock guitar world. Rod Stewart, or Countdown, begins with a feud that destroyed what might have been one of rock's greatest partnerships. In the late 1960s, Jeff Beck teamed up with a young Rod Stewart in the Jeff Beck Group. On paper, it was magic. Beck's fiery guitar blended with Stewart's raspy, soulful voice. Their debut album, Truth, in 1968, should have been the start of something legendary. Instead, it lit the fuse of a long and bitter conflict. Insiders recall that Beck's perfectionism clashed with Stewart's more laid-back, instinctive approach to music. Rock journalist Chris Welch reported Stewart once grumbled to fellow musicians, "Jeff thinks every note has to be perfect, but he forgets that rock and roll is supposed to have soul." The man's turned music into a math exam. What really drove Stewart over the edge was Beck's domineering behavior. While Stewart wanted to establish his own presence as a frontman, Beck allegedly treated him like a sidekick. During their 1969 American tour, things came to a breaking point when Beck openly criticized Stewart's performance in front of the band. Furious, Stewart reportedly stormed out, snapping, "I don't need a guitar teacher who thinks he's God. Find yourself another puppet." Their split was ugly. Stewart spent years dismissing the partnership, accusing Beck of crushing his creativity. What should have been a collaboration for the ages instead became one of rock's most infamous breakups. Next, we have perhaps the most legendary guitar rivalry of all time, Jeff Beck versus Eric Clapton. Clapton, hailed as God by fans for his devotion to the blues, couldn't stand what he saw as Beck's pretentious experiments. Their clash began in the mid-1960s when both emerged from the British blues scene. Clapton reportedly complained, "Jeff's got the technique, but he's lost the soul. He's turned the guitar into a science project. Real blues comes from suffering, not from a laboratory." To Clapton, Beck's use of feedback, distortion, and flashy tricks were nothing more than circus acts, brilliant perhaps, but shallow. Beck, in return, dismissed Clapton as a museum curator, faithfully reproducing American blues without pushing it forward. One story says the rivalry boiled over in 1975, when both were present at a recording session. Beck began showing off new experimental sounds, and Clapton allegedly walked out, muttering, "I came here to play music, not watch a magic show." Their feud wasn't just personal, it symbolized a deeper philosophical split in guitar history. Tradition versus innovation, emotion versus technique, blues purity versus fearless experimentation. And neither man was willing to compromise. Sliding in at number 3 is Jeff Beck's complicated history with Jimmy Page, the mastermind behind Led Zeppelin. The two were once bandmates in the Yardbirds, but their partnership quickly soured. Page reportedly said, "Jeff thinks being technically superior gives him the right to look down on everyone else. He's confused skill with wisdom, and it makes him impossible to work with. The tension was constant. Page believed in serving the song and playing as part of a team. Beck, on the other hand, seemed determined to make every moment a showcase for his own brilliance. During a 1966 recording session, Beck allegedly criticized Page's playing in front of others, sparking a heated exchange. Witnesses claim Page finally exploded, saying, "I'd rather play with musicians who know ego serves music, not the other way around." Even after both men achieved superstardom, Page with Led Zeppelin, Beck with his solo work, the animosity lingered. Page avoided projects where Beck was involved, and in private, he reportedly described Beck as a genius with the attitude of a spoiled child. At number 2, we have one of rock's great contrasts, Jeff Beck versus Keith Richards of the Rolling Stones. To Richards, Beck represented everything wrong with modern rock. He once complained to friends Beck's turned guitar playing into a bloody science experiment. He's so busy showing off that he's forgotten rock and roll is supposed to come from the gut. The feud heated up in the early 1970s. Richards built his reputation on raw, unpredictable energy, the dangerous swagger that defined the Stones. Beck, meanwhile, was dazzling audiences with what Richards mockingly called conservatory rock, highly polished, technically perfect performances. In 1973, during a London session where both were present, Richards made a pointed jab about guitarists who think they're in an orchestra. Beck shot back that precision was better than sloppiness. The argument escalated until both stormed out. For Richards, Beck's style wasn't just different, it was betrayal. Rock was supposed to be raw, emotional, and untamed. Beck, in his eyes, had sanitized it, turning rebellion into sterile perfection. Finally, topping the list is the ultimate clash of guitar egos, Jeff Beck and Ritchie Blackmore of Deep Purple and Rainbow. Both men were fiercely talented, fiercely ambitious, and fiercely arrogant. Their rivalry goes back to the late 1960s, when Blackmore was developing his theatrical, classically influenced style. Beck reportedly mocked it as musical theater for people who can't handle real innovation. According to rock journalist Jeff Barton, Blackmore once fired back, "Beck's turned the guitar into a computer with strings. He's brilliant, but he's forgotten that music is supposed to move people, not just impress them." In 1971, things came to a head during a recording session when Beck criticized Blackmore's use of classical elements. Blackmore stormed out, declaring, "I don't take advice from someone who confuses showing off with artistry." The feud never cooled. Blackmore avoided projects involving Beck and dismissed him as technically brilliant but soulless. For decades, their rivalry symbolized two opposing visions of guitar greatness: heart versus mind, emotion versus perfectionism.